Hello there, and welcome back to the second episode of World Football Talk. I am your very angry and annoyed AC Milan fan host, Thomas Formoso. I am joined alongside me by my very content Chelsea fan co-host, Ryan Linder. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing content.
You're doing very content?
Very.
Nothing really happened last week. Oh, except for the 36 hours where the whole world almost melted down.
Oh, yeah, you mean your world almost melted.
So if you listen to the first edition of this podcast, I had great things to say about Donnarumma. I said the contract is basically done. Everything was fine. Everything was not fine, apparently, because hours after the podcast went up, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Ryan texted me, Donnarumma's not re-signing. I go to every source I can imagine to try and figure out if it's true. It is true. I went in a bit of a fit of rage, as Ryan could tell you. Some of the things I cannot say in this podcast. After that, the Cristiano Ronaldo tax evasion stuff was already news by the time we recorded the podcast, but I'm not a big lawyer. I don't really want to give speculation on that. I don't know about Ryan, but then all of a sudden, Cristiano Ronaldo says he wants to leave. Actually, that was Friday. Let's talk about Thursday night. Thursday night, there were reports apparently that Antonio Conte was about to leave Chelsea because they had not made any moves in the transfer market. And, you know, Ryan, I know you didn't really...
Just because Conte's pulling an Arsene Wenger for a week doesn't mean he's leaving, okay? Come on.
Well, I mean, I'm a romanticist, so I was like, yes, let's watch the world burn, because that's what romanticists
Let's
do.
watch my opponent's world burn.
Well, you know, you were pretty happy when Donnarumma didn't resign.
It's hilarious. It's still hilarious.
So that happened Friday morning. Ronaldo apparently wants to leave Madrid, and that's when the transfer market basically melted down, because every single transfer went on hold, because now the arguably second best player, whatever, we're not going to get into that, just went on the transfer market for apparently only 150 million pounds, if you believe some of the reports, which is not a lot considering what players are being thrown around as. It got so absurd that apparently PSG was willing to offer 135 pounds, I believe, for Ronaldo at one point, and a different source was saying that someone else was willing to offer, or Madrid was willing to sell Ronaldo for 130 million pounds. So I said, wow. Yeah, right. Ronaldo's going for 5 million pounds cheaper than the next Thierry Henry. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's just how the transfer market is. We're going to start with Ronaldo. This happens all the time. I don't want to say that I bought into the hype. I'm a Madrid fan, so I was cautiously cautious about this, and I didn't think it was going to happen until, as the day went on Friday, it became more, as the day went on Friday, nobody was denying it, and more reports were saying that Madrid is ready to sell him for this much and are starting to prepare for the worst. And immediately that sounded like this might actually happen. Ronaldo's been at the club for, I believe, almost 10 years, 8-9 years, and Real Madrid fans had to start to prepare for the worst here. But this Real Madrid fan would say maybe it wouldn't be the end of the world. What happens if they sold Ronaldo and got that money? And if you want to play devil's advocate here, what if they got Mbappe for free? I don't know. That's something I thought about. I don't know. As a Barcelona fan, how did you see this news? You're not a big Ronaldo fan anyway. You don't like him at all, really. But as a Barcelona fan, how did you see this news come out?
I would think it's amazing as a Barcelona fan, because I don't know, but he's done this, his third year in a row where he's going to leave.
Something like that. There was sad Ronaldo in 2012.
Yeah. So it's like I'm not even getting my hopes up anymore. Like, if he were to leave and go to Man U, I would actually like that, because Man U, he would be the one-star player on that team. So I don't think he'd be able to carry Man U.
Are you saying Paul Pogba's not a star?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. The Dabs are just great. They've gotten so much better.
He's getting paid like a star, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he'd be able to do anything in Man U. So I think that would really weaken Real Madrid's squad. So that would be very helpful to Barca.
But now it's a double-edged sword, because then Chelsea would have to deal with it.
It's Man U. They mess up. It's Mourinho. He'd probably bench him in the first 10 games anyway. He did that anyway in Real Madrid.
As soon as Wednesday morning, AS's reporter that's very close to, I'm going to call him George Mendes, because no one seems to agree on how to say his first name, Ronaldo's agent, of course, that apparently Ronaldo's happy that Perez that defended him, maybe gave him a nice little hug, made him feel wanted and loved like a little 5-year-old. And apparently now he doesn't want to leave. And I'm sure by the time you're hearing this podcast, he'll sign another 10-year contract for $1 billion, probably. Because let's be honest, that's all that this was supposed to do. It's pretty much dead. I think the only potential suitors would have been Manchester United and PSG. I don't really think any other team. I mean, there were people throwing on Chelsea and Man City only by default because they can actually afford him.
Yeah.
So there were only a few teams that could actually afford him to begin with. Him going to PSG, I don't know about him going to PSG because a lot of people were saying that he would, but I don't think Ligue 1 really suits
Right now,
him.
he's still kind of in his primes. Kind of, it wouldn't be enough a challenge for him.
Feel
He
like
still wants to win trophies.
I feel like that would be more something that he would want to do when he's starting to decline, which he still has two to three big seasons left. He's in such physical shape that he doesn't seem to be declining anytime soon. He adapted like most players don't, Rooney, that he learned that he doesn't really beat anybody off the on the dribbles as much. He'll do a step over every now and then, but skilled defenders will be able to contain him for the most part. But his positioning is still fantastic. He's always there at the end of headers. That's really all the goals he's scoring at this point. That or at top of the box. He's never really scoring, doing anything crazy from out on the wing. So done and dusted. I don't know what I should have expected from this transfer rumor to begin with. It did keep people going for a while for
those 2 days.
Yeah. Now.
Your favorite part. Get ready for a 3-hour rant on this next player.
I wore my AC Milan kit in strength today. I was hoping it'd give me strength to get through this situation.
How's that going out for you?
I don't even know anymore. So Donnarumma, if you haven't heard
AKA Donnarumma.
Yeah, Donnarumma. If you haven't heard, I'm going to try and breeze through this as quick as possible because there's a lot of different facets to this story. Donnarumma's been negotiating with Milan for 4 or 5 months now, I'd say, ever since they officially sold the club to the new owners. Mino Raiola, Donnarumma's agent, didn't want to negotiate until the new ownership was set in stone so they could see the future of the club, the direction they're going. So anyone that says that Milan waited too long, I don't want to hear it. Raiola was the one that said that they couldn't. And I believe there's a rule talking about negotiating with under 18-year-olds that is also thrown in there. I don't know the rule exactly, though. So they negotiate. They negotiate all summer. Salaries are being thrown out. Release clauses are being thrown out, as we'll get to. The reported contract that was offered to them that they ultimately denied was 4.5 million euros, I believe, for 5 years. With a release clause. Well, the release clause wasn't disclosed because there was a great mess about the release clause. To give perspective here, 4.5 million euros is 500,000 euros more than Gigi Buffon is making, who is proven a legend, World Cup winner, Champions League finalist twice, was a serious contender for Ballon d'Or in 2006 when he won the World Cup.
Still one of the best, even to today.
Almost 40 years old and still killing it. Although I am a little bit biased, would have been making less than potentially the next Gigi Buffon, I would say, is a fair assessment of who we're going to compare him to. They deny it. All of AC Milan lifehood breaks down. I was sad for about 5 minutes and then very angry because as of 3 days before he denied the contract, Donnarumma said how much it would be his dream to captain the club. It'd be his dream to be at Milan for life. Milan is his dream club. So that happens. That made a lot of Milan fans angry, and he was looking for a house in Milan as well. So that made a lot of fans angry that he did a complete 180. More and more stuff starts coming out over the weekend and ultimately into this coming week. Mino Raiola does a couple interviews with media. Fasone and Mirabelli, the guys running the club, have a couple interviews where it was basically back and forth. Raiola, of course, blames Milan. Milan blames Raiola. Apparently, Raiola went to Milan to deny the contract, even though Donnarumma wanted to stay at Milan. So now we got a problem. Listen, people always say Raiola, he's a great agent because he does what's best for the players. I would love to beg to differ on that case because you're talking about a guy that wanted to be at Milan, and you're talking about a guy where, let's be honest, if he leaves, Raiola's going to get a nice fat check. And I don't use the term fat lightly here. He reportedly made anywhere from 20 million to 40 million euros off of Paul Pogba's transfer to Manchester United. Yeah. Agent cuts are a big problem in football. So now we have the problem of chicken and the egg. This person is the reason why. No, this person is the reason why. So ultimately, we're sitting here. Fasone and Mirabelli said we would still accept Donnarumma back, even though most of the Milan fans have burnt that bridge, and I burnt that bridge for a while. But apparently, because of the death threats and and by the way, if you haven't seen this, please check this out. When Italy's U21 team played in their first game in the U21 Euro, some Polish Milan fans that were behind Gigi's goal threw literal dollar bills at him when a cross came in. I'm not talking about like $4 bills. They threw probably $50 to $100 worth of dollar bills at Donnarumma.
Let's just say they threw enough where they had to stop the game to pick up all the money.
Yeah,
so they could give it to Donnarumma after the game, of course.
Of course, yeah. Or Raiola was probably like on his way to the stadium when he saw that. So this is something that's not gone lightly. And the Curvo Sud, the Ultras group of Milan fans, were saying that basically, not that we don't want him back, but they always had a problem with Raiola more than Donnarumma. Sure, they didn't like the fact that Donnarumma rejected, but based on what Raiola's saying, he's taking all the responsibility because he realized, as I thought immediately, that Raiola screwed over both parties here, because now Milan can't sell him for a lot of money like they were going to, but now Milan has all the power where they can just sit Donnarumma for a year, lose his stock, lose his value, probably get a smaller contract, not playing the World Cup. Even if it's one game as a reserve, he's not going to make the squad. So now all of a sudden it's, well, why do they, like, it doesn't make sense for them to do it other than to force a move out of Milan, which wouldn't really work anyway because he'd be sold for nothing. The release clause was reportedly Milan, I've heard anywhere from 100 million euros to 200 million euros as a release clause that Milan offered. Sure, that's outrageous. I understand why Raiola might be a little bit disgusted with that, but he also came back with a 10 million release clause and 5 million if they don't make the Champions League, which is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. Players, Jordan Pickford, which Pickford's a promising talent, but Jordan Pickford went for 30 million pounds. I mean, we're talking about 10 million for possibly the future Manuel Neuer. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. So apparently, reportedly, I want to stress reportedly, Milan wants to restart negotiations with Donnarumma and apparently have. I don't really know what's going to come out of this situation because Milan's looking for the goalkeepers, but that's obviously going to be put on hold. They've been looking at possibly Bernd Leno. They've been looking at Mattia Perin. I don't know if I want Donnarumma back as a Milan fan. I think what would make me happy is if he fired Raiola, which I don't see happening because Raiola is one of the best agents for players, or at least is perceived that way. I don't really know how Donnarumma at this point, if he doesn't fire Raiola, can play a whole season or more than a whole season for Milan with a good portion of fans probably jeering him during the games. There's a lot of bad faith right now. And looking at the different Milan sites and accounts and just gauging reaction, and personally, I don't really know what happens here if they re-sign and then Raiola comes back next summer and does the same thing. The one good thing about that would be re-sign him to about 4 or 5 year contract. Raiola comes back next summer and says, we want to leave. Then we can sell him for 60 million, 50 million, especially if he has a great season. So really, Donnarumma started out as the snake, but Milan could really end up being the snakes if they say, you know what, we'll re-sign you. Don't worry about it. Knowing Raiola, because especially Italian teams that dealt a lot with Raiola, they'll know that Raiola's going to come back and say, you know what, we want to leave. Real Madrid got rid of Navas, or Manchester United gave De Gea to Real Madrid. Yeah. So we want to leave now. So, okay, $50 million. Or euros, excuse me. 50 million euros, 60 million euros. It's going to shatter he's going to shatter the keeper record that Buffon set. I don't see a problem with that. I think now Milan needs to start looking from a business sense instead of a loyalty sense, because clearly this could come back around to bite them. So they shouldn't have blind faith anymore. They should always prepare for the worst here. Now, as an outsider to all this, and actually as a goalkeeper yourself, how do you feel about this whole situation? Because I've seen a lot, like on ESPN FC, it bothered me because they were blaming Milan that they waited so long and it's their fault and all that kind of stuff. And I say, you know what? Fine, I get it. You might not know all the details of the situation, but that's simply not where they were going. And they were also saying that, Raiola apparently didn't agree with the direction they were going. Sure, as Ryan has pointed out to me in the past, they only signed Andre Silva was their biggest transfer. It's not a big deal. They haven't signed a guy like Morata or James or Belotti yet. So that could be viewed as not a big direction, but it's a better direction than where they were.
Definitely.
I mean, they made 4 transfers, and they don't really make transfers in recent years. So as an outsider, how do you see this situation?
It's a mess. That's what it is. It's a big mess. But if what you're talking about from a business standpoint, I think that would be a good deal for them, because usually with goalkeepers, their talents don't really diminish unless your name is Claudio Bravo. Then your talents really diminish very quickly. But from a Donnarumma standpoint, he's going to keep improving. So if they are able to keep on to him and then eventually sell him, they could easily break the goalkeeper record he'll be the number one transfer ever for goalkeeper, which would be amazing for them. They could sell more players like they're doing this season, hopefully at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could just keep going in the right direction. So I would just say what you're saying, do it from a business standpoint, keep him maybe a year or something, and then sell him for a huge transfer fee and just get another, I would say not world-class, but top-class keeper who's pretty consistent, and then they could just focus on strengthening their midfield and forwards then.
Okay, Antonio Conte. We're gonna brace through this one quick because this one died pretty much as quickly as it rose.
Yeah.
It got enough traction to be on a show like ESPN FC with only a half-hour time slot, so I feel like we should mention it. Reports were from Italy, of course, were saying that Antonio Conte was very disappointed that Chelsea had not done anything in the transfer market yet, which by my count, it's only June 21st, and the transfer window is not even open yet. And he was disappointed, and he wanted to leave. He was threatening to leave Chelsea if they didn't start making moves, which would be just absolutely crazy to think about a coach even doing that. But he does have history doing this, which is probably why the report even started, was that he did this with Juve, and that's one of the reasons why he left Juve and eventually became the coach of Italy. Not salty. And so this report had a little bit of weight to it because of past instances, and it's the only reason why something like Ronaldo's United makes sense is because it happened in the past and it fits the narrative. But as a Chelsea fan, how did you feel about this whole situation?
He's not going to leave. Again, it does have a little weight because of the Juve thing, but that was 2 days in the preseason or something. So it was
something very
close
into
the
that.
Transfer window.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're not even there. I don't think he's likely to leave. He has a lot of big targets set. Like he has a 5-man short list that includes Lukaku, Alexandro, and Bonucci, which would be, I think, would all be great signings. But he does have a plan, and reportedly, they have agreed contract terms with the Belgian striker Lukaku, and the contract could be worth £150,000 a week, which is kind of absurd, but we kind of need him. But apparently, they are making some moves at this time, trying to at least.
Did any bad will from the Mourinho exit, which is one of the key reasons why Mourinho left? Or let me rephrase that. It was one of the key reasons why Mourinho was unhappy his last summer at Chelsea. Chelsea board does have a history of doing this. Did that come into your mind at all?
I don't know. I don't think they're going to do this to Conte. Like, Mourinho's a different type of beast. You don't know what was going on behind the scenes with Mourinho. You never know what's going on behind the scenes with Mourinho. Especially at Real Madrid, at Chelsea, at Man U, anywhere. Mourinho causes a problem. It's just what he does. It's his mantra. That's what he does. Conte isn't a man like that. He's a very calm guy behind the scenes, and then when he's on the stage, he's an insane mental case, which is amazing. That's what you want in a manager. So I don't think he's going to leave. I think they're going to start making some moves soon. Hopefully it's not for Adama Traore. Hopefully we do not get him, because he would be useless. I don't know.
And to speak on that, there were reports that Conte wanted Dries Mertens from Napoli, and Chelsea board said no. He's too old at 30 years old. Too old after having a great season in Serie A. And they want to go after Adama Traore instead.
Who is a relegated 21-year-old winger from Borough.
So
who got 1 assist.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about his decision-making and, it's poor. I mean, I think it's... I think, when I see reports like that, it makes me believe that Conte might be onto something, because getting a person like Dries Mertens would be great for the team.
Yeah.
2 explosive wingers on both sides would be incredible for them. No discredit to Victor Moses and Pedro. They had great seasons, but
it adds more depth.
Yeah,
as well.
It adds more depth. They won't be as tired. They have Champions League this year, so they have to worry about depth, which is something they didn't have to worry about last year, which is probably one of the big reasons why they won the title. And I don't know. I don't know why they would. Maybe it's fee. Maybe it's transfer sum for Mertens, because Mertens would go for a decent sum because he had a great season. But I don't see how they could say that Mertens wants. I don't know how they could say Mertens is too old. It stinks of Pirlo being too old at Milan, and they don't re-sign him. I want to briefly talk about Andres Iniesta. He's been linked to Inter and City being the more obvious one because of Pep. As a Spain supporter, I can value Iniesta and see what he's done in his prime, and he's still a good midfielder. People say he's top 5. I wouldn't go that far. I think he's still a great midfielder. I think he can still be the maestro that he was in his prime, and he can still command a midfield, but he's getting older, I want to say, and he has a lot of games under him, and he's having injury problems. Him to go to City, I feel like would be nothing more than a reunion with Pep, and would be a not great decision for City, because I see the thing is, I don't know if they're going to be looking to wait for his contract to expire and get him on a pre-contract, because this all stems from Iniesta not signing a new contract with Barcelona. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Now I'm going to bring back the whole Barcelona fan thing. We're talking about Andres Iniesta. We're talking about club legend, one of the best midfielders for club and country in their history, leaving as like Andrea Pirlo or Frank Lampard to a team where he's never going to have a legacy, even if it's to go reunite with Pep and go on a honeymoon together. I don't know how Barca fans are really perceiving this.
Well, it's very similar to Xavi going to, where is it, Qatar? Right?
He's in Qatar,
yeah. So it's the same thing, really. It's like he is kind of getting past his prime. He's not getting played as much as he used to. It's just another Xavi scenario, really. It's just he's going to go. He's going to be benched the whole time if he goes to the EPL. If he goes somewhere else like Xavi did, Qatar be a star over there. But
yeah,
if he goes to City, I think he just wants to reunite with Pep, just get that chemistry back, and just be managed by him again. I don't think anything's really going to happen with him, though.
Do you think that's a good move for City? A team that released a lot of old players to get younger?
No. Gotta say no to that, because they're looking to buy a bunch of younger guys this transfer window. I don't know why they would go for Iniesta.
And you'd have to imagine if Iniesta goes to City, he's going to command, maybe him not personally, but his auras and personality is going to command that he needs to
his
be
leadership
playing.
Will definitely.
He's going to want to play and probably deserve to play. So that could be a problem for City and any youngsters they signed, which was something that was perceived to be a problem, or was going to be perceived to be a problem with Zlatan going to United, but that ended how it ended.
Yeah.
So one door closes, another one opens. If they get rid of Iniesta, are they going to sign Marco Verratti? Verratti most recently was seen holding up a newspaper cover of the same newspaper that took the photo of him holding the newspaper cover, saying, "I'm done with PSG." And apparently he's not willing to come back to preseason or training to PSG until he's sold. PSG obviously does not want to sell him. He's been part of the project since the beginning, since he was signed from Pescara in Serie B. And Verratti doesn't want to stay, and in my opinion, rightfully so. What has PSG done besides win leagues? But that's like Bayern winning leagues.
But then they even lost this year in Monaco. They crumbled.
I think this year PSG is really struggling to get star power. They lost the league. They crumbled. I mean, Monaco was a very good team. Take nothing away from them. But PSG crumbled when it mattered, and they lost big games, and they lost little games at the same time.
Cough, cough. Barcelona. Cough, cough.
And that is most importantly why they might have trouble signing players, because they blew a 4-0 lead, including scoring an away goal in the second leg to Barcelona. They gave up 6 goals. That's unprofessional for a team of their quality to do. That's supposed to be in it to the end in the Champions League. And say what you want about penalty calls and free kicks and Barca getting favored, whatever. They still gave up 6 goals. Even if you get unfavorable calls, giving up 6 goals is ridiculous. And now the PSG project is completely crumbled. They only won the League Cup and the Domestic Cup, I believe. They didn't win the league. They didn't win the Champions League. They got embarrassed in the Champions League. So I think the project is starting to crumble there, and I think Verratti is starting to get a little fed up. The problem with Verratti is, and as Italian, I know this all too well, he's injured all the time. 20, 30 games at a time, he's injured. This could be a problem for Barcelona, who also deal with injuries from Andres Iniesta and deal with consistency problems in lineups. Now, I think he's a great pick for Barcelona. And that's not because I think he's going to get injured, saying that as a Real Madrid fan. I love Verratti. He's easily the most important player to Italy. So obviously I rate him very much. I think he would go for a very large fee. PSG could really cash in on him. That being said, if PSG sells Verratti, they're in trouble, because that will be the sign of we're giving up, we're throwing a grenade into the middle and starting over. So what do you think about Verratti going to Barcelona?
Speaking of Xavi before, I think he could be the long-term replacement for Xavi. Even though he doesn't score many goals, he's very versatile. He doesn't score a lot, but he does. He's involved in a lot of goals. But he can really control the midfield, and he can really control the tempo of the match. And that's what they need. Barcelona need a consistent midfielder to do that, because Rakitic could not give that to us last year consistently. So I think Verratti would definitely be a good choice. I don't think he'll start right off the bat. He needs to prove himself first at Barcelona, which I think he could against especially the lower teams. I think he could easily adapt to the Barcelona style of play, and he could just easily get into the starting 11.
Do you think this transfer will definitely happen if for no other reason the fact that it doesn't seem like he wants to play for PSG anymore?
I think that's the main reason it's going to happen, because he just doesn't want to stay. If he's refusing to train and refusing to play, PSG have no other choice but to sell him. And Barcelona are going to jump on that immediately, because that's what they do.
How much do you think he's going to go for?
That's a tough one. I don't know.
I would say he's probably rated anywhere from 70 to 85 million, I would think.
I was going to say 60.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just my own guess on that, because he is viewed as one of the best midfielders in the world despite him always being injured. And he can command a box. He actually has been compared to Xavi a lot. And I think that he would end up being worth a lot. I think PSG will only sell him for a large sum, but as June turns to July and July turns to August and the transfer deadline keeps winding closer and closer, like you said, they can't keep a player that doesn't want to play there. That's like with Milan with Donnarumma. Now, of course, Donnarumma wants to play in his last year of the contract, but it doesn't work in the locker room, in the chemistry. How can you play with a player that doesn't want to be there? So I agree with you on that. I think he's going to get sold. I would say it'd be more than 60, but I'm not a transfer specialist. And in this transfer market, you can't predict anything anymore.
True, yeah.
Sticking to PSG, apparently PSG is stingy because they don't want Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And that deal was apparently close, and now it's dead. It's dead, done and dusted, not going to happen. Aubameyang wants to leave Dortmund. No one apparently wants him, which is incredible. How does nobody want a player who scored in almost every single game this season, top scorer in the Bundesliga? People don't want him.
It's amazing. 85 goals and 128 apps for Dortmund, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants goals.
He's not a one-season wonder because he broke out 2 seasons ago, backed it up with, I believe, 6 to 8 more goals. I don't remember the exact figure. Almost a goal a game, top scorer, beat out Lewandowski, despite Lewandowski's best wishes. And, it's incredible to me. I know that Dortmund probably want anywhere from 70-ish million euros for him, so that's a lot of money. But we're also talking about one of the best strikers in the world.
He's definitely worth that.
With people say, oh, he scores so many tap-ins, but that comes down to his positioning too. And I know you always say that about Harry Kane, but it's the same thing with him. Is that positioning? People say, oh, he scores tap-ins, but you have to get there to be in position to tap it in. Mm-hmm. If it rebounds 5 times, sure, tap-ins are lucky, but he's always in a situation where he's there for the rebound. If the goalkeeper parries it right down the middle, he's there. So plus he has blistering pace. Let's talk about that.
He's one of the fastest in the world.
He's easily one of the fastest in the world. Probably, I would love to see a foot race between him and Gareth Bale, healthy, of course, because that would be a great race. It's just, Manchester United don't want him, who are linked to everyone, by the way. Real Madrid were a few years ago linked to him, but apparently don't want him anymore because they love Benzema for some reason, and Barcelona don't want him. Obviously, they got Suarez. They don't need him.
Oh, yeah.
City have Jesus and Aguero. They don't need him. None of these teams, I would say maybe Liverpool, but it's probably a little bit too steep in Liverpool's price range. You think Arsenal, but Arsenal doesn't like spending money, so that's not going to happen.
Even Chelsea.
And even Chelsea, but apparently Chelsea want Lukaku, which I don't know how they could spend potentially 20 million less on Aubameyang and have, in my opinion, a better striker. I don't know. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that's a tough conversation right there, actually.
And it's weird because now we just talked about players that don't want to play for a team. Well, now Aubameyang says, I don't want to play for you guys. But how does that work? Because Dortmund is a team that could really use him as striker. Obviously, that's stating the obvious, but they've also had this problem with players wanting to leave. They sold Mkhitaryan, Mats Hummels ended up getting sold to Bayern. Goetze had the whole stint before he came back. Dortmund has this recurring problem, plus Marco Reus is injured again for I think until maybe next January. They have this problem where they can't keep players at their club, which is remarkable considering they're a Champions League semifinalist. We're in the Champions League final a few years ago. This is bizarre to me. He's been linked very, very tiny bit to Milan because that's his former club. I don't think Milan's going to sign him. To be fair, the price is probably right up their alley because they're debating 100 million for Belotti. Yeah. So, but I don't think he would fit well with Milan's style. I don't think they're that kind of. I don't think they want to be that kind of counterattacking team that he thrives in with at Dortmund. So I don't know. Where do you think he's gonna end up going?
Dortmund. I think he's gonna stay for another year because there's no other team that's I guess not needs him, but just nobody wants him for some reason. It's just I don't know what it is. He's just gonna stay.
And I was going to say maybe Atleti, but the problem is Atleti might sign Diego Costa.
Yeah, exactly.
And Costa's apparently willing to sit for 6 months to go back to Atleti when the transfer ban's lifted.
It's kind of like the same thing with Donnarumma. Like, he's such a good player, but nobody really needs
right
his
now.
play. Yeah, right now at this time.
And the problem for Aubameyang is he's in his prime now, and I believe he has a good 3 to 4 seasons left. The problem with a player like him, as we're kind of seeing with Gareth Bale, even though Gareth Bale is still very young, once you start getting older, when your key thing is pace, the pace eventually leaves. And unless you're a guy like Ronaldo that adjusts and finds out his new purpose on the field, you could end up losing value in a nosedive if you lose that pace, because his big thing is pace and positioning. And if he loses the pace, I mean, positioning, you just buy Harry Kane. Like, you could buy people from inside. There's plenty of people that have good positioning, but the pace is another thing that's key for Aubameyang, and that could be a problem too. There's also the thing of the Cup of Nations isn't often enough to warrant, oh, this is a problem. But there's also that problem too with Liverpool saw with Mane, is that they're gone for key stretches of the season. Now in Dortmund, it's not a big deal because they have the winter break. But if a Premier League team wants him, they're losing him for arguably the hardest stretch of the season during the holiday break. Yeah. And Liverpool saw that when they almost completely collapsed without Mane, and that could be a problem for Premier League teams not to sign him. But again, Cup of Nations literally just happened this year. That's still 4 years away, so it's not a problem yet. But that could be something that's weighing on their mind too. If you sign him to a 5-year contract, you're gonna have to deal with the Cup of Nations eventually, and that could be a crucial point in the season. And speaking of Liverpool, you might have heard this rumor about like 3 weeks ago that Mo Salah from Roma to Liverpool was close to a done deal. It's still not official yet. We're still sitting here waiting for Liverpool to finally sign Salah. I think this is a great deal for them, as much as I hate to say it. And I think Salah... See, the problem with Salah is a lot of his hype also comes off of pace. And he does score a lot, which is good for him. He's very creative. He's very good on the wings. But I think there's also the problem of he's not... I think Liverpool still needs that something to catapult them into a top club. They got a lot of it with Mane, but he really just kept them afloat. He didn't really take them to the next level. They wanted that with Sturridge. They never got it. They wanted that with Sterling. He threw a fit and left. So I think they're still missing that something.
They have Coutinho and Mane right now. They just need that one more thing. They need that striker who's going to really score all the goals that they really assist and provide for that striker. Because Sturridge can't do it. He's too inconsistent. He gets hurt all the time, and
Klopp doesn't even like playing Sturridge. Exactly. He just refuses to play Sturridge, and a lot of Liverpool fans don't even like Sturridge. So it's hard to. And Liverpool still has Origi, if I'm correct, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not really the player that everyone thought he was going to be. And they're searching. I am surprised they're not in it for. Let me rephrase that. I'm not surprised that they're not in it for Aubameyang, but I am surprised that they're not maybe making a little bit of push for him, even if it's like a 60 million bid, to at least try, because they need that. They'd be a perfect destination for him. They like to play that counterattacking football with great positioning. The wingers supply more than the strikers at this point, which I think would only help Aubameyang, because then he could really come out. They have to follow guys like Salah, like Mane, like Coutinho, so it would open up space for Aubameyang. I think he'd be a perfect destination. The problem is the price, and I don't know if Salah is really the answer. He's the answer to some problems, especially in depth, but I don't know if he's the answer to all of their problems. Dani Alves, the hero of Juventus for Champions League. Oh, wait, he's not on Juventus anymore. They rescinded his contract. They didn't even try to sell him off. They rescinded his contract. This is a bizarre one, because apparently there were rumors of him leaving, and then he said to the press publicly that if Dybala wants to be the best in the world, he needs to leave Juventus. As a Juventus player, he said this. And then a few days later, he posted a picture on, I believe, Instagram of his boots from the 2015 Champions League final when Barcelona beat Juventus. So all of a sudden it was like Juventus fans. I remember reading Reddit to get Juventus fans' reactions. They're like, "Oh my! Like what is this? Like what are we looking at? Like this guy's telling us our best player needs to leave to be good. What kind of player does that?" And sure enough, a few days after that, Juventus rescinds his contract. He goes to Man City, reunites with Pep. Basically a done deal. I've said to you that I think this is an interesting move because despite being World 11, he is still 34 years old. And Man City seem to be making a big push to go younger, but now they might sign Iniesta and Dani Alves, which would be a complete 180 of that idea. And even though it's only a 2-year contract, which of course Dani Alves is good enough for at least one more season from what we've seen, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the best move. I don't know if it's the best move for City. I'm a United fan, so since when do I ever care about the best move for City? This was a weird situation because he was a hero in the Champions League, and I never watched too much of him in the Serie A, but I've heard from journalists that he didn't perform that well in Serie A. His big thing was in the Champions League, similar to Dybala. So I don't know. This was a weird one because it seemed like everything was going great. It was almost like, no, there's no way he could, why would he ever leave Juventus? He just had a greght season in Juventus. Why would they want to get rid of him? And all of a sudden he's telling Dybala to leave, and he's posting boots from when Juventus lost in the final. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this one.
It's a weird scenario. That's all it is.
It's almost people saying, oh, he's clearly trying to force his way out, but apparently there was talk that that they were looking to get rid of him anyway. I don't know. This was a weird one because it just all happened so quickly. And once you see a player saying that's like somebody from Milan saying that like Bonaventura or their big players need to leave to become better. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Or it's like someone saying Donnarumma needs to leave. Someone on Milan saying Donnarumma needs to leave Milan to be the best in the world. So it's really unheard of, to be honest. So
good business for City though.
It's great.
He might only be worth £5 million, or he might even join on a free.
That's what the thing is. It's also wages, so not many teams would have taken him on those wages, even if they did try to sell him. So it seemed like rescinding his contract was the only way it was going to get done, and there was absolutely no way that he was going to stay after saying the things that he said with in regards to Dybala. So here we go. My favorite type of the week, because I get to just have pure fun looking at the schedule, and even if they don't deserve to be in What to Watch, they're in What to Watch. But more on that later, because that's at the end of our What to Watch segment, as Ryan makes like a very disgusted face. First, it's MLS rivalry week. I don't know if you knew. If you're not an MLS fan, you definitely didn't know. Even if you are an MLS fan, you probably didn't know. Rivalry week. Red Bulls, New York City FC. There's a very small window of time in each footballing season where me and you get to butt heads directly. Our teams face off against each other. NYCFC, obviously, Ryan's been a Red Bulls fan for much longer by default. So Red Bull Arena, Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, all times Eastern. Fox Network, we got promoted to your local main Fox Network. Fox Sports Go, Fox Deportes, and Sirius XMFC. What are your predictions for this game?
Red Bulls 3, NYC 1. Also, if you're not an MLS fan, check out this game. If even for the soccer you don't want to watch, you could watch a bunch of guys kill each other. No matter what, at the least, it's going to be a great, exciting game. It always is with these teams. Sometimes it's 7-1. Sometimes they kill each other and it's like 2-1. But it's a great game no matter what.
I think NYCFC wins, obviously. I think they're going to win 3-0. Villa's going to get a hat trick, but 2 of the goals are going to be penalties.
Oh.
Because Villa likes to score penalties. So, and I think they're going to get a bogus penalty
goal. But I don't
think
NYC has even drawn at Red Bull Arena yet, have they?
I don't believe so, but I don't know for sure. Now, on the quick note of MLS, VAR has been a big topic, and we'll save an in-depth look at VAR for a slow week, because this past week certainly wasn't a slow week. But the MLS has announced that after the All-Star game in July, they're going to implement VAR 2/3 into the season, which I think is incredible, considering not only is it 2/3 into the season and teams just last week were getting screwed over by bad calls. All the teams aren't even going to be on level games in the All-Star break. The MLS schedule is awful in the sense where some teams will be on a 12 games, some teams will be on 16 games played, where it doesn't make any sense. Some teams are going to benefit from that. I don't know. The MLS is crazy sometimes. I really don't understand it. Moving on. U21 Euro. It's back, baby. The way this is panned out, because I kind of undersold this. I'm gonna sell it a little bit more to you. Okay, we're talking about countries like Spain, who have players that are playing for top flight clubs like Marco Asensio, Saul Niguez, Gerard Deulofeu with his resurgence at Milan. The rules with this Euro is that you only had to meet the birth date requirement at the beginning of qualifying. So really, this is an under 23 squad. So teams like Italy, Germany, Spain, Portugal, they have very stacked teams. Spain and Portugal played yesterday, and Spain won 3-1. Italy and Germany are going to play on Saturday at 2:45 p.m. Eastern in Krakow, Poland. This is going to be a potential group winner. Now, in the U21 Euro, there's 3 groups. Top team from each group advances to the semifinals, with the best place, second place team also going to the semifinals. So the way this works out is that the winner of the Italy-Germany game will likely win the group, and the loser will likely finish second. The question is, with Spain and Portugal also in the same group, there's a lot of competition there with who the best place, second place team is going to be. And it could come down to goal difference. So even if you lose, you better not lose by like 4-0. So this game's a potential group winner. 2 stacked squads. Italy's got great players. Germany's got great players. It's going to be on ESPN3, ESPN Deportes, YouTube, watch ESPN, UEFA TV on UEFA.com, and ESPN Deportes Plus. It's going to be a good game. Ryan's not going to watch it, but I might actually watch it. Next, I got a little bit of flack for putting this in. The Segunda Division Promotion Playoffs second leg. The first leg is today, Wednesday. It's going to be between Getafe and Tenerife at the Coliseum Alfonso Perez. Saturday, 3 p.m. The winner of the aggregate score, depending on how things happen today, might not be the winner of that game, will go to La Liga and probably get blown out 7-1 by Barcelona and Real Madrid. But that's how it is. You know, the already minimal amount of TV money that the lower teams get in La Liga because of the 3 top teams, they'll get a little bit more next season. So things are looking up. That's going to be on beIN Sports Connect USA, which is their streaming service, beIN Sports in Espanol, which is on your TVs if you have beIN, and Fubo TV, one of the many streaming services you can purchase. Back to rivalry week. Portland Timbers, Seattle Sounders, arguably the other biggest rivalry in MLS. Yeah. This is also going to be a corker, as they would say. It's going to be at Providence Park, Sunday at 4 p.m. ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and Deportes Plus USA, and watch ESPN. It's going to be a good game. These are always very fiery affairs. These two teams absolutely hate each other. It's like El Clasico. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not even going to compare it to El Clasico. Anyway, moving on. This one I really got flack for. The Champions League / Europa League first qualifying round, first legs. Not even the second legs, but we're including it because I love terrorizing Ryan sometimes. Tuesday through Thursday, every single match, there's about like 40 of them. Every single match will be on Fox Match Pass, which is their formerly known as Fox Soccer To Go. They rebranded it. That's going to be there. I believe the best teams from Estonia, Andorra, Kosovo, and the like will be playing.
Of course it is. Of course.
You know, you got to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
We're actually going to have it on in the background when we're recording if everything works out the right way. So that is that. I'm sure by tomorrow being Thursday, they'll turn out that Ronaldo already got sold to United. Donnarumma is going to Juventus, and you know, Conte has already signed a contract to go back to Italy and coach the national team. But we've done our best with what we've had today. So signing out, I am Thomas Formoso, a still slightly enraged AC Milan fan. That has been Ryan Linder, my co-host,
the content Chelsea fan,
who just loves watching other people suffer, as you saw last week. And that is it. Please join us next week. We are looking to release the podcast by Thursday morning, sometimes Wednesday night if I'm very fast at editing. So please tune in next week. Thank you for listening.